All right. Well, hi, and welcome to another episode of my Leveraging Your Voice podcast. Today, you can see I have this wonderful lady joining us. Gayle, why don't you say hi, introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. I'm Gayle Treece.
Awesome. And I'm Coach Paul with PR Vocal Coaching. Now, I help people become better communicators. I'm a vocal coach for professionals who struggle with confidence in their speaking. So you go to a presentation and you're anxious, or you're standing in front of your team and you're worried and the words don't come out like you want them to. Well, that's what I help people with. So if that's something that you want to learn more about, you can go over to my website. But today, our episode is all about Gayle. Now, I have the pleasure of knowing her from my corporate life as well. And I like that. And in my corporate life, when we were working at the same place, we always got along well, didn't we?
We sure did.
Yeah. So that's a testament to Gayle. She's a super nice person. Super nice person.
And right back at you.
Thank you.
I could say the same.
And what I want to do today is just start with a little bit of your background so that we can hear a little bit about the sort of things that you've done in your career. And all of that will take us to what you're doing now, which is what we really want to talk about ultimately, so that people get the chance to hear what you're doing and maybe listen in. So let's start with the first part. What have you been doing in your career, and what sort of roles have you been playing all that time?
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me into your podcast. I really appreciate the invitation, and it'll give me a chance to practice my vocal technique.
There you
So
go.
thank you. I get a little free coaching out at the end of this too, Paul, right? But anyway, thanks a lot. Yeah, one of my favorite people from our days and working together, and it's just nice to be here to talk to you. Not big on talking too much about myself, so I'll give you a real brief history. I think my career started way back, like at the end of the 70s, believe it or not. And at that time, I was working to get through school, and I came to Ford. I came to Ford in manufacturing, and I ended up working making Mustangs. And that's how I learned all about the plant and understood how vehicles get made. Uh, I understood because I was there. I was in the up and down the different lines, watching them come in. Little did I know I'd be in IT later and working in manufacturing systems. Okay, but that's another story. I then left there and, of course, graduated. I was in special education, and so that's where I got my background in learning, development, working with children and youth, all the way through adult learners. Little did I know that would serve me well, being in org change later and putting together learning workshops and packages like that, and understanding what was going on with people and why they were resistant, taking that behavioral and humanistic approach to change, right? I then left school, undergrad, and went on to work for Jewish Vocational Services. And of course, that's where we were working with the developmentally disabled population. And at that time, doing placement, supported employment, workshops, making sure there were skills and reskilling. And I started and was a part of a program called Supported Employment. And that's where we did good matches with people with disabilities. We wanted to make sure that we found the right type of job and the right type of work for them. And so again, looking back on this, looking at the recruitment experience and matching people well with their fit and culture and the environment, working with leaders and making sure that their people then also knew how to work with the development of the disabled population at the time. So that's where that skill set came from. Moved on, went back, did my graduate studies at around global business management. Always interested in global things of what was happening around the world. And so I completed that, and I ended up landing in, rather than going to school, I moved on into the school system, I should say. I moved on and came and decided to come into corporate. I landed, made the transition out of education into the corporate environment, coming into IT through a company called Tech Team. And so at the time, we were right at the beginning of the dot com. And that was 1990s, right? And so I ended up coming into Tech Team and working in IT. And of course, leveraging my manufacturing experience, going into plants, training people, making sure that we put in OSHA log, automated the medical systems, understanding the plant environment. We put in something called a H316 drop for those IT people that worked on projects like that, making sure that we check people in and out from coming off the line and coming off the production area and into the medical area. So all of those things were a part that learning that I'd already picked up. I brought that with me into my new work environment and continued to eventually go into in the time that I was in IT, product development systems, into engineering. Well, of course, I understood, a little bit about the background of how things are designed. I've seen that battle firsthand with people working on the line and blaming the engineers and engineers blaming the product development people and that little battle there and thinking, they're both quite analytical. Okay, why aren't they getting along? And so, of course, ended up working in product development systems and engineering, and putting together program books and making sure that the all the pieces and components were together in those books. It was just a great career. I had 22, 23 years in corporate America, and I had another 5 years in manufacturing. I had another 5 years in engineering. So I enjoyed the ride. And one thing I took away from all of that, all of the life experiences that you have, they can all be used. You're going to come back and you're going to use them at some point in your career.
Yeah, that's a great career, and I appreciate you sharing all of that with us. And recently you retired from the
Mhm.
corporate world. And what year was that in?
That was in 2022.
Okay, so it's been a couple of years,
Yes.
but like all smart people who are able to help people, you couldn't just sit at home and do nothing. So talk a little bit about what you started to do once you retired.
Well, it kind of started during COVID. When we were all here working from home and I'm sitting in my home office, the phone started to ring. And people would say, "Can I talk to you for a minute?" Not necessarily people who I was working with, but others who were also struggling during that time. And, just sharing ideas of how I was coming through, talking about ways that they could leverage this time to um, get healthy and try new things, get out and walk, um, really, exercise self care. And, you know, the phone just continued to ring. Uh, After that, retirement hit and it just continued. After that, there were a wave of people like myself who were no longer working. And so the phone started to ring again. And they would ask, "Well, I'm shocked. I'm stuck. I don't know what to do." This was unexpected. This was disruption. Mind you, I was a part of org change when I was working in corporate. And so, of course, I've been talking about and seeing all the signs of disruption. And not only that, but accelerated disruption. Change was coming fast and looking at machine learning and AI and how that was going to disrupt entire teams. And so some of it was somewhat predictable. You could see the writing on the wall. And that said, n- the question is, how do I hold space for others while I also pass through this phase of retirement, being newly retired myself, right? And so I began to answer that by just picking up the phone again and holding space for others. Now, that delayed my grief, my loss, my ending by doing that. And then after that, I just decided, okay, putting the phone down, and I'm going to book myself on everything that's leaving this place. So I flew, I got on boats and trains. I took every mode of transportation to just relax. And I think by the time I came out of it all, uh, by the end of 2023, I had released all the tension from 40 some years in the workplace, all of those great job experiences that I described earlier. I released it. It's still with me, but I'd released that space that I was holding to show up and be present for all of those jobs in the past. And so again, I had another story to tell. Um, and I, just okay, had to sit with it a while, right? Had to sit with it. And I think December of this year, this past year, December, is when it occurred to me that um, people were still stressing again. The phone started ringing again, and they were now stressing about the political climate and being overwhelmed. And so I sat again and I thought, God, what could I do? I don't want to get back on the phone again and take calls and I feel like work again. So what can I do? Somebody just happened to mention to me by early January, they were putting together a show lineup, WPON 1460, and asked me if I would be a part of it. And I said yes. It wasn't the answer that I was expecting, but that's the way it started.
That's awesome. It's a great story. Just listening to you here today, you sound like you did back when we worked together in the corporate world, which was always friendly, always helpful. And if you needed any help or needed anything, you could always count on being able to call you and get that kind of help.
I appreciate that.
And I think that is your reputation from your career. And I certainly found it to be true. So that's great. And you've helped a lot of people all that time and all those years, probably a lot of people that you're not even aware of. And that's a nice feeling, I know, always. So talk to us a little bit now about this radio show that you're going to be doing, which I think will be fantastic. So when is this show going to be on? Has it started? And what kind of things are you going to do with it? So just the basics first. What day is this show?
Well, first, let me return the compliment to you. Every time I reached out to you when we were working together, I said, Paul, I need that voice of yours. I need that expertise of yours. Okay. A change is coming and we've got to put a plan together. And I think I need you to kick off and bring your expertise to the platform. And you always did it. And let me publicly thank you for that as well.
I appreciate that.
Okay. Now that we got that out of the way, let me tell you about the show. So the show airs on Mondays, 4:30 to 5:30 on WPON 1460. Now that's streamable globally. Anywhere you get radio, pull it from Apple Music, Simple Radio, Apple Music, just WPON.com. Small station. Um, I'm invited to come in and be a part of a Monday lineup. Uh, it's an oldie station. There's music. I love it. I love music. And we know that music is a great, great equalizer everywhere you go, right? Who doesn't love to listen to music? And so that really, that got me excited. I get to pick songs and play music and do stuff that I couldn't do back when I was constrained in a corporate environment. So I'm going to have some fun with this. And I have decided that I would, I've come out of planning background. And so I mapped out a plan. And so that plan by month, I have topics. And so for February, the topic was just talking about the Bridges transition model. There's so many people out there that have been pushed out of jobs and roles and things closing. And so that one I think is a very simplistic model, just those three phases. And everybody doesn't have access to some of the corporate resources that we had when we stepped away. And so there are a lot of people that are hearing that for the first time. And so that's been this month. Brought in people from LinkedIn. LinkedIn was my street corner. Before I left corporate, I would go out there and scrub those streets for new data and new information, new learning, new people, and having access to other companies that are doing things, maybe not the same way we were doing it, but some of them were further ahead than we were. Some of them were smaller and more nimble. And so that allowed me to bring in people from the LinkedIn community. And that's how I reached out, tapped in you. I said, wait, Paul's still doing some great stuff out there. Let me go get Paul. And that's how it started. I started reaching out and people said yes. And so I've got my schedule now mapped out. I think I'm at into May.
Yeah.
And so I have all my little bingo squares filled out. And so it's just got to be nice visiting again with people from LinkedIn and from my community and having them come in. They're all great people and they're SMEs in their own right. They have deep knowledge about their topic. And then I get to wrap all that around great music. I'm going to have some fun, Paul.
Awesome. So you have 4:30 to 5:30 on Mondays, and you're playing music, but you also have a theme for the month, and so subject you'll be covering throughout those Mondays of the,
Yes.
and you have guests to help you support the themes.
Yes, I do.
That's perfect. That's perfect. I love it. So how have the shows been going so far?
Well, let's see. Um, I'm learning.
Mhm.
Like everything I'm learning. And I reached out to you because I think I'm going to need a vocal coach. This is not easy. Okay, this is not easy. I didn't want to do podcasts. You brave soul, you're doing podcasts. I prefer to be behind a microphone. And even behind a microphone, your fears and your anxieties show.
Mhm.
Um, you forget. You can be right in the middle of saying something and your brain freezes. Okay, I'm talking to the vocal coach, so now take note because you know what you're gonna have to work with me on, right? My mind can be thinking too far ahead, of where I got to go next. I've got to cue my engineer and ask that engineer to get ready to put that music under and bring in my music. And then I forget what I was going to say next. Okay. So I've done that a couple times. You don't want dead air on the radio. And last time I was holding up a cue card for him and he couldn't read it, and everybody's moving their glasses around. These are the things you can't see with radio podcasting. I'd be a mess, right? But this is what was going on. I think had a coughing attack one time. So these are the things that you're going to hear on my early tapes, Paul. I'm going to work them out. Okay. So I'm getting there.
I love it. So we have a radio host that is honest enough to share her journey as she gets going, which just makes you more lovable and more interested to be listened to.
Okay, if you say so. I'm struggling though. Okay,
I,
but I'm gonna improve. This is a new journey for
well, I
me.
think it's great, and it also leans on the concept of however old we are, there's always more to learn,
That's right.
and let's put ourselves in positions to learn and take the risks and take the challenges and do our thing. I think that's fantastic. So on the show, you have guests. Do they dial in? They don't come into the radio station or anything like that. Do they just dial in?
Well, I've invited you to be a guest, and so you have a choice. You can come into the station. It's a small station. Or you can dial in by Zoom. I've had Dr. Jen Fromm. I'll just give her a shout out because she's been a joy. She's come from Australia and she's zoomed in, and the listeners have loved her, along with Dr. Paulina Drake. And those have been my two anchors. Paulina Drake is here locally, so she sits in the studio with me. And I hope that you can come in as well.
Beautiful. Okay, so you have options. That's good.
Mhm.
When you're interviewing people, what are you thinking about? Do you have a list of questions and you're ready, or are you just freewheeling it like I do? Just all I'm into.
Well, I'm doing both. Okay. Now,
Sometimes I do this. Sometimes I take some paper and say, okay, I've got my questions here, but there's nothing written on it.
nothing's changed here, right? Nothing's changed. But if you can, think back, we had a guild when we were working together.
Yep.
And it appeared that everybody was dialing in just to talk, and to vent. Change was our topic. Change is the topic. It's the background for this show. It is about moving people through change and helping them to learn how to better transition through the things that are happening to them. We don't just say this is about change, it's about great music and great conversations. Everything's about storytelling. And so, yeah, there's a topic behind it, but there are also questions that I want to tease out of the guests because I'm familiar with them and I'm familiar with their deep expertise in certain areas. And I know that inevitably they have a change or transition story to tell or to sell to someone else. I understand their product or the service that they're involved in. And so I might ask them for a question or two to make sure that when they leave that their key messages and points have been shared with the audience. But I also know in terms of prepping for that, that I want to make sure that the audience understands and gets it and can come along on the journey and that we all end up at the same place, clearly understanding how this ties to them building the muscle needed to be more resilient and to come on through. Times are tough. You can't just say flip the light switch and come on through, but you can offer people some tips and perhaps they'll have some aha moments or some discovery moments after listening to good music and listening to some good storytelling, right?
I love that. And what I get from this is you're still using all those skills you used in the corporate world. And now you're on the radio, reaching even more people.
That's it. That's it. And you never know. That just goes to show you don't give up. Again, like you said earlier, every day's a school day and we keep on learning. I got that from my dad. My dad was 95 when he passed away. And he let me know that even to the last 15 days of his life, you have to keep changing. You have to keep getting up and you try to keep moving forward. And every day will present something new to you. Just watch it unfold and just be present and go for it, right? So yeah, you're gonna keep learning and keep growing as long as you're here, is the way I understand it.
It's a great message. Now, on the radio show, on the website, do they have past sessions that you do, or do you do them live and they disappear?
No, you're right. Good question. It's on SoundCloud. SoundCloud, and it's Transformation Nation, one word, dash live. And that's how you find it on SoundCloud. I have all the previous recordings. They're 1 hour recordings. And then I'm even putting together a Transformation Nation playlist. Okay. That way, all the songs that we play throughout all the shows each month, you can go and listen to what the picks were. They're not just my picks, they're also the picks of the guests that come on. I said, hey, give me a song. And so we've got different people have different taste of music, and we just figure out how can we put the songs in to help tell the story.
I like that. Now, you can, with those recordings, as you do more shows, then start to separate them into subjects as well.
Hmm.
People come if they have a change issue with something and you have a section on that, they can just tap right into those and be guided right into that. I think that's great.
I do. I do. And, again, this is not new, as you pointed out. We've done this type of work in the past, and some things just don't leave you. Even when you leave the work that you did, the work that you get paid for, there's so many other opportunities to serve. Church, you've got community service. I'm a part of a sorority, aka Alpha Kappa Alpha. There's so many different opportunities every week to get involved and to give back, to coach and to share and to give back. I like what you're doing because you really are, you're giving back. You're sharing your expertise. Not a lot of people had that expertise when we worked together. And now you're also extending it to other people here on this platform.
I want to help people leverage their voice.
Hmm.
And this is a way that I can do that, is to invite them on and let them share their message, which you're doing today really, really well. And I hope you share this podcast
I
and
will.
let people know what you're doing through it, because it's a great task that you've taken on and a great service you're providing. And I want to thank you for that, for everyone who listens in and gains the value from you. So that's really
Well,
awesome.
I want to say the same to you. I came out on LinkedIn and found that you were doing this, and I thought, oh my God, he's awesome at this. And so I began to like and share, and I will certainly continue to do that and lift you up as well.
Awesome. All right, now we're closing in on the end. Do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave with the audience here as we work our way to the end of the show?
No, I think that your message, if they come to your page and look at what you're doing, I think it says it all. This is about building confidence and having the confidence to have a voice, to share your voice. And in all those years of experience that I talked about, I had to find my voice at some point. I had to stand up. I had to speak not only for myself, at times I was speaking for others. There are times that my creativity was needed, my voice was needed, and I really love what you're doing. And I really advocate finding your own voice and using it well throughout your career, or just in life in general, right? And especially this time where we are right now, find your voice. And no better person to help people do that than you. And so I appreciate the time today.
Well, thank you for that. It's a commercial for me. I mean, I appreciate that. What a
We
deal.
do it all.
All right.
We get it done.
And it's true. We want to help people be able to express their true selves with the world,
That's right.
because that's the only way that we're going to connect with one another. And if we are nervous, anxious, and unable to share what's on our heart with others, we always are disconnected, or there's distance between us, and that distance between us doesn't help.
Mm-mm.
And so if we can all communicate, just imagine if all of us could share our hearts in a way that wasn't offensive to people, but invited people into conversations. Be a wonderful thing.
It would.
So,
It's good for you too. It's good
yeah,
for you. Mhm.
and having
Yeah.
good conversations keeps us, I want to say, keeps us young, keeps us happy, keeps us fulfilled, all kinds of things. It keeps us
I
from
agree.
feeling alone in the world. So it's a really neat thing. And hey, I love what you're doing. I'm looking forward. I've listened to some of your shows already, and they're great. So I hope everybody signs in, listens, whether it's on a radio or on a website. And when I post this, we'll put the website and where to find Transformation Nation, all that sort of thing, so that they can just click and get to you. And I love it. All right. Hey, Gayle, thank you so much for being a part of my Leveraging Your Voice podcast. I have to ask this. I always smile when I ask it. Did we give you a chance to leverage your voice today?
You absolutely did. Thank you. And I'm going to need more coaching, so I'll be back.
Awesome. Folks, thank you so much for watching. We have many episodes on our YouTube site, and you can find us there on YouTube. Just look up Leveraging Your Voice and you will find us. I have many guests and many shows. Take a look at some of them. I think you'll enjoy them and find different things that we have talked with people about. I know you'll love this episode. And I got to ask you this. It costs nothing to support a show like this by just hitting the little like button or the share. So that's one request I have of you. And when you go and visit Gayle's information, do the same. It's free to do. I'm not asking you for any money, just a little like, and it means a lot. And we appreciate you considering doing that. All right. Again, if you want to visit me, go to �PRVocalCoaching.com. You'll find all the information about me there, and you can set up a call with me one-on-one if you'd like. And until next time, bye for now.